Hey guys, we're today with Tom and his Synchron deck profile. How are you doing, Tom? Alright, you look nice today, mate, and you're awesome, Matt, as well. He looks awesome. So, how good is this Synchron deck that you're playing? You've been summoning Quasars and Slifer as well, quite consistently.
It has 2 level 12s it makes. It makes some power plays. It struggles against back row. I've been playing it because there's a lot of decks here. It's struggling with don't play back row. But
yeah.
It struggles when they play back row, but apart from that, you can make power plays on turn 1. You can make power plays on turn 2. So it really doesn't mind going first or second. You can set up boards on turn 1 that are hard to get over, or you can take over their boards on turn 2. So yeah.
Okay, that's the whole idea of this deck. Alright, so let's see what you have.
So the first card is 3 Junk Synchron.
Yep.
It's the main card of the deck. Enables almost every single one of your plays. Enables level 5s, and it's pretty much the only card in the deck that makes this deck worth playing. Next you have 3 Quickdraw Synchron. It's the worst card in the deck because of its restriction to only make cards that list Synchrons in the material. So it only makes, in my side deck, well extra deck, it only makes Road Warrior and Jet Warrior.
So only 2?
Only 2. Okay. It's the worst card in the deck, but it enables so many plays through its discard outlet that you have to play it at 3.
Yeah, you just want to discard a couple of cards.
You want to discard cards, you want to get them in the grave so that you can revive them with your Junk Synchrons.
Yeah.
You want to get this guy in the grave, like, there's so many things. You play 3 Level Eater.
Yep.
It's the best card in the deck apart from Junk Synchron. Hands with it are so much better than hands without it.
Yep.
Any hand with this is like 90% better than a hand without it. As long as you can get it in the grave. Sometimes there's hands where it's just in the hand and you can't get it in grave, so it becomes a bit clunky. But it's a non-tuner. You can, when you have multiples in the grave, you can go up so many levels with it, which makes it really good.
Yeah.
So,
it enables you to manipulate levels, which is what you want.
Well, that's the main thing. You need to make sure that you manipulate your levels for going into different synchro plays.
Yeah.
That's why you need 3 of that. You play 3 Doppel Warrior. You could cut down to 2, but I think 3 is correct. It works in the grave, it works when it's in your hand. Specialing it from your hand is actually not as relevant as you would think when you look at the card. It's usually more relevant the fact that it's in grave for your Junk Synchrons.
Bring it back, yeah.
Bring it back, synchro up with it, you get 2 tokens, and then usually go into Hyper Librarian and start making plays off that. We have one of the newer cards of the deck. You have 3 Jet Synchron. It's probably one of the best cards to make this deck slightly more competitive than it was before, because it revives a level 1 tuner from grave when you discard a card, and that also gives you a discard outlet, another one apart from Quickdraw Synchron. So you can discard level eaters, and with tokens on board, it makes really easy formulas, which makes plays
draw power as well.
Draw power. You go +2, +3 with it, which is why you need this at 3. There's also, people sometimes play 2, but I think you need to play 3 because the extra deck requires you to send this to grave or summon it from deck quite a lot. So if you only have 2, sometimes you end up with a turn where you've got 1 in hand or 1 in grave, and you need 1 from the deck from one of your effects, and you don't have it. So that's why I think you need to play it at 3.
Right, so 3 Jet Synchrons. Okay.
The other part of the Synchron package is 2 Synchron Resonator. A lot of people play like Quill Bolts or more Spell Strikers or stuff like that. I play 2 of these because I'm playing 2 Allure, so it goes from 9 targets for Allure to 11, and it also it's a combo extender rather than like a recovery engine. When you get a head on board and you're going off, with your tokens on board, you can just spec this, make another formula, keep drawing, keep going off, you know, go from a level 5 to a level 6. It just enables so many plays. It's quite clunky sometimes, so that's why you only play 2. I think anything more than that's probably incorrect, and you could probably get away with playing 1. But I'm playing 2 because I'm playing 2 alone. Now for the contract, playing 2 Maxi, because sometimes going second, you can just pop this off and you either force your opponent to change what they're going to do, or you just draw like 4 or 5 cards. It's also good going first, because you set up a board, your opponent tries to special out of it, you Maxi them, and you draw a shitload of cards. So you play it at 2, you'd probably play it at 3 if it was at 3, but it's at 2, so you play 2. And the last one is 2 Effect Veiler. You play 2 of these because sometimes, even with all your negs on board, especially against deck like Fluffles, you need to neg their effects. It's also a level 1 tuner, which sometimes sometimes is relevant. Not very often, but it is sometimes. Sometimes there's just problematic effects where you don't have anything out, and you just need to neg the effect and just try and go off next turn. Now for all the one-offs, playing one Synchron Explorer.
Just the one.
Just the one. I think you probably should play two. I'm not, because there's a play involving Excel Synchron when you send this to grave to make one card Trishula.
Oh yeah.
So you have Excel Synchron, send this to grave. When you have two Doppel Warrior tokens, that makes Trishula. But if you have this in hand, you cannot do that play. So maybe playing it at 2 is correct. I need to test more, but I think at the moment I'm just happy keeping it at 1.
Okay, for now.
For now. One Mathematician. It's like the worst normal summon in the deck, but it's important because, you know, you can send Doppel Warriors to set up for next turn. You can send Level Eater if you haven't got one in grave already. Sometimes that does let you go off.
Yeah, it sets up your plays.
Like, it sets up plays. Sometimes you end up going off without normaling, and then you need the Level Eater and you don't have it. And if you have a Mathematician, you play it, you put the Level Eater in grave, and then you just keep going off.
Yeah. Okay.
One Spell Striker. You can probably play more of these and get away with it. I'm only playing the one. It's another non-tuner. But its level's slightly awkward. Like, if it was level 2, it'd be way better. But because it's level 3, it's slightly awkward. You almost always have spells to banish to it as well, so it's fine. You could play 2. I'm just playing 1 because I think that's the right number. One Dandelion, because this card is stupid. Sometimes you pitch it to Quickdraw, you get 2 tokens. You pitch it to Jet Synchron, you get 2 tokens. You foolish it if you've got no non-tuners. You get 2 non-tuners on the board. It enables so many plays. If you had more of these, if you could play more, you would. But because it's only at 1, you play the 1 and you're happy with it. And the last one is a Glot Bowl.
It's the one.
The one-off.
Once per duel.
Once per duel. It's an amazing effect to have. You don't want too many of them, which is why you only play 1. Rezzing it from grave and milling 1 can often be game-breaking what you mill. If you don't have a Level Eater and you manage to mill a Level Eater with this, it can change games around. So it's definitely one of the better cards. Now we're on to spells. 3 tunings, because it enables so many plays. Like, having a hand of 3 of these is insane. Having a hand of 2 of these and a Level Eater is Quasar. Like, it's so flexible with what you can get, and the mill is also really relevant. Again, you mill Doppel Warriors, you mill Level Eaters. Sometimes just Glot Bulbs, Maxi sometimes, just because you don't have a non-tuner in grave. Like, it's just insanely powerful, the mill. It's why you play 3 of them and you can't play any less. This is the controversial card in the deck, 3 Twin Twister. I'm going to say, if you don't own 3 of these cards, turn off the deck profile and find another deck to play. Because I think this is mandatory in this deck, because it loses the back row so hard. Like, a single strike or a single warning or a single bottomless completely wrecks all of your combos. And the fact that it discards is super relevant, because you can discard cards to set up for plays if you haven't had a discard outlet yet, or you can discard Level Eater, discard Dandelion. It's pretty much almost 100% mandatory. I can see why people say play 2, but I think playing 3 is almost 100% correct. Next is to Allure. I think playing 3 is overkill because you're going to get hands that just clunk with them. I think playing 2 is the right amount. With the Synchron Resonators, you have 11 targets for it. Sometimes it's clunky when you have like all non-darks and you have this in hand, but it gives you more draw power, it extends combos. I think that's why you need to play this at 6. Now we're all off on one-offs, 1 rotor.
Is that 1?
Because it's a 1, it gets Doppel Warrior, Spell Striker, and Junk Synchron. Gets all the good cards. A load of options. Whatever you need at that time, it gets it. 1 upstart, because this is a 40 card deck, and you want all of your cards to be the same. So playing this makes you have a 39 card deck. It's slightly awkward giving your opponent 1,000. Sometimes it stops OTKs, but always remember that if you rev your Level Eater, you can do it in attack mode, and that has been relevant for 600 points.
I mean, that shows the right idea.
1 foolish.
The middle for his furniture.
It's insanely good. Send any card that you need in the graveyard to the graveyard and go off with it. This and like any other card makes so many plays. It's insane. 1 for 1, you play the 1 because it's good. Again, you discard Level Eater, get a Glot Bulb, get a Jet Synchron if you still need to discard stuff. It gives you loads of options because of how many level 1s you play. Because you play effect veiler, like you can get effect duel if you really wanted to, but it's probably bad.
Oh shit.
One Regeki. I would actually recommend not playing this, but this is Scrub League, and sometimes you need to sack your opponent. So you play the Regeki. I think if you weren't playing this in our Scrub League environment, I think this is probably better off as mind control, because
monster free.
yeah, like you get a free monster for Synchros, but at Scrub League, I think you just have to play it. Some games you just need to sack your opponent to win, and the last card is Soul Charge. Of course, probably the best card in the deck, because if you go off and you make Quasar, and this is in hand on the first turn, you make another one, you make another level 12.
On your way to making Quasar, you'll probably draw into it with Librarian and stuff
like
anyway.
when you're playing TG and you're going off, it's really likely that you draw this. Yeah. You draw like +6 cards when you're going off with Hyper Librarian and formulas, so it's like insane. You have to play that card. If you're not playing it, it's wrong. Now,
40 card deck, that's it. There's
40
no traps.
cards, no traps.
I traps.
I think
only hand traps.
Only hand traps. I think if you play traps, you're sort of diluting the purpose of the deck. Yeah. You're not interested in what your opponent's trying to do. You're just trying to set up a board where you can go off and make sure that they can't kill you, and then you kill them.
Dragon, why are you
Playing the extra deck. Extra deck is, first of all, 2 Formula Synchron. I wish I had room for a third, because it's one of the best cards in the extra deck, because it enables so many different plays. I think I don't have the room. I might have another look and see if I can fit a third one in, but I don't have the room at the minute, so I have 2. Alright. 1 Tatsunoko. It's an incredibly good card. You wouldn't realise how relevant its effects are. It's unaffected by monster effects, which a lot of people forget.
Secret affinity.
So it can't be affected by any sort of monster effects on the board. And also the fact that it can use monsters in your hand to synchro with is really relevant. Sometimes it's Spell Striker with no spells engraved. Sometimes it's a Maxi that you just need to get rid of. Yeah. Sometimes it's a Doppel Warrior that you can't get out. It's insanely relevant, its effect. Excel Synchron, one of the playmakers of the deck, and don't underestimate it, because this, with a level eater engrave, makes so many plays. You can send Jet Warrior, Jet Synchron, increase its level to 6, level eater down to 5, and that's any level 6 play. Yeah. You can make it a level 1 tuner as well if you really need to, by sending Quickdraw. The ruling is when you send it to Quickdraw and reduce level, it goes down to 1. So it sets up a load of plays by putting stuff in the graveyard, and just the fact it's a level 5 tuner. The best card in the extra deck.
Yeah, TG.
TG Hyper Librarian.
Broken card.
It's stupid. Sometimes you literally +6 and make stupid boards. If this card was banned, this deck would not be worth playing. I think if this card was at 2, you'd play 2, but it's at 1, so you have to settle with the 1, but it's insanely good. Like this and this, like you can make Black Rose on their turn. This draws 2, it enables you to go off. And you can then level eat this into this, make Tatsunoko. So many plays with that card. One of Speedroid Chanbara. This was a last minute addition that I only added this week, but I added this because sometimes I need a level 5 non-tuner that's generic, and the fact that Chanbara sometimes just goes to your opponent, goes okay 22, 24, and then they have to kill it, otherwise they just die next turn. But its main point is it's a level 5 generic non-tuner, so you know this, and this makes Quasar. So because the other next extra deck monster, which is Jet Warrior, requires being made with either Jet Synchron or Quickdraw Synchron. So because it's not generic, sometimes you end up with hands that you can't make this and Librarian to make Quasar, but it's insanely good. The spinning back to hand is relevant. People on my last video were annoyed that I sacked a level eater, which I realise you cannot do.
Because
you can't tribute level eater, but you can tribute any Dandelion token or Doppel Warrior token. And on that video, don't worry, I still could have made Sifr, so it did make a lot of difference. Its second effect is really relevant. Sometimes you're going off after they've killed this, or this is engraved, and summoning this back just makes another massive play, so it's incredibly good. Alright, Coral Dragon, because you need this in the deck, it's compulsory to be in your extra deck. Its discard effect is relevant. With Level Eater, it enables so many draws with Librarian. It just lets you go off. You play this, it's not a very good card, and let Let me just get that out of the way. It's hard once per turn. It's not that great, but it's a generic synchro, so it's not a tuner, so that helps. And you can do plays with this, and then Librarian, and that's like with Level Eater, you can make this, and then this, and that's like draw 3, because you draw 1 from this, draw 1 from this, draw 1 from this, and you're just insane plus. So it's fine. It's a fine card. You need to play it, but it's not great. 1 Crystal Wing. Literally probably the best card in the extra deck now, thanks to power creep. I think some games it's actually better than Quasar.
It can beat Quasar.
It can beat Quasar. It beats Quasar up, but the best thing about it is it's so easy to make. It's so much easier to make than Quasar. It's so much easier to make than half the things in your extra deck. It's a generic synchro and a tuner, so any level 6 and a 2 tuner just makes it. It's insanely good. Beats over everything. Some decks just can't get over it as well, which is good. 1 Road Warrior. This is not a great card, but you need it for some of your combos. Some of your combos just require this to be on the board so that you can get cards out of the deck. It's fine, but one of the relevant things is when you summon this, it lets you get a warrior. It doesn't have to be warrior type. It doesn't have to be. It just says warrior. So this is warrior type and a warrior. So sometimes this gets this. It's fine. 1 Trishula. You have a 1-card Trishula in this deck with Junk, Synchron, and Doppel Warrior. It's not as good as it used to be. It used to be better. It's worse now, but some games it's just insane. If you end up in a grindy matchup with a Doppel Warrior engrave and you still have your Excel Synchron left, that makes 1-card Trishula. And in grindy matchups, it wins games sometimes.
Non-targeting removal.
Non-targeting removal. The card I showed here, 1 Stardust Warrior. I think I might take this out of the extra deck because it's really good against pendulums. Because as they pendulum all at once, you sack this and that negs it. That just negs all of it. And then it comes back at the end of the turn. So that's where it's really good and really shines. So if your meta had a load of people playing pendulums, this card's required. This meta doesn't, so it's not as good. But you can still make it. You can neg a special summon, which is fine. It's just alright. It's easy to make as well with a tuner and a non-tuner that are synchros. Yeah, so Excel Synchron and Librarian makes it. It's easy to make if you don't have Level Eater. And the last 2 cards, Shooting Quasar Dragon. Some people ask why I play this and this. This is better to make on the first turn, this is better to make on the second turn. This is more resilient because it gives everything a second life, and it negs a monster effect, and it also special summons a Stardust. It's not that relevant, but sometimes it is. Someone's charge warrior back sometimes. So this is better on the first turn, this is better on the second turn. So this, if you
make them on the same turn.
you can make them on the same turn.
Soul Charge maybe?
Soul Charge, if you go off and make this, you can then make this. So with Soul Charge, you can make both of these, and boards like that are really hard to come by. Sometimes you do have hands that make these 3, which is insanely hard to get over for decks, but that's rare. The hands to make them are incredibly specific, but this and this with Soul Charge is actually relatively easy to make. You make one, you Soul Charge, you make the other, and you just say go, and you see if they can get over it. And most of the time, they can't.
The next turn they're dead.
Next turn they're dead. This is why this is better going second. Like, on the way to make this, you probably make Jet Warrior. So if they only have 1 monster, you spin it, and then you just 4,000, 4,000, and they're dead. And that's game. This is better on the first turn because it stops Regeki. I know this stops Regeki too, but this stops it with its second life without having to use your neg. So if they Regeki and you neg, you'll then protect. With Quasar, you've got no protection. Whereas if they Regeki you with this, you just let it resolve, and then you still got a monster neg. So that's why this is better going first, and this is why this is better going second. And that's it.
That's it. So that's the Synchron Quasar, or whatever you're going to call it. Synchron.
Quickdraw Synchron
deck profile.
Make Quasar run. I don't know, whatever you want to call it.
Alright, so any shout outs?
Shout out to the mat, I suppose. Miss Fiddlesticks Customs on Facebook. Look it up. All of her products are handmade. So if you want something like this, facebook.com/Miss Fiddlesticks Customs.
It looks quite sweet with the Venus and stuff. It looks sick.
She hand paints them all. So yeah, I recommend playing this deck if you meta's not a lot of back row.
Yeah.
If your meta's a lot of back row, don't play this deck. If everyone's like playing Satellas, don't play this deck because you're gonna have a bad time.
Okay, alright then. That's the deck profile then. Cheers, Tom.
See you later.